Good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to be talking about parenting, and sorry, the dogs are barking. Tonight we're going to be talking about parenting and asking other parents questions, and we don't want this to be like something controversial. We're just doing this to learn from other parents and things that you all do that maybe we can learn from, and things that we do that maybe you all can take. So this is not meant to be controversial at all. We're just going to wait for some other people to join in before we start, but yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And then I've got him here to kind of make sure I'm saying the right things. Maybe agree or disagree with what I'm saying. We're just going to wait a couple more seconds here, and then we'll start chatting about different parenting subjects. The dogs are out, so hopefully they'll behave and stay quiet. I don't know, but we'll see. All right. You ready? Sure. Okay. So, what's the weirdest thing you think you've ever said? I think the weirdest thing that your brothers ever said was talking about replacing tires on a vehicle and asking why you couldn't just replace one at a time. And your dad being like, well, you don't just buy one shoe at a time. You typically buy them in pairs. What do you think, out of you and your brother, who do you think is more likely to be the president, and who of you do you think is more likely to be the stand-up comedian? Because I totally have an answer for this, but I'm just curious what you think. I think out of both of you, you're more likely to be president. He's more likely to be stand-up comedian type-ish. Not that you're not both funny or that you're both not capable of being either, just more likely, I guess I could see that. Let's see here. I was trying to see if we could wait a couple more minutes to see if more people join. That way we can kind of get more opinions on things and see what other people think before we start asking the other questions. Have I ever embarrassed you in public? I have? How?
You're weird.
I'm weird. How am I weird in public?
You just say the weirdest things.
I say the weirdest things. Okay.
I definitely embarrassed you.
Yes, you and your brother have both embarrassed me in public. In different ways. Definitely in different ways. Let's see here. Which kid is more likely to get in trouble with the grandparents? That's exactly how they've done it, yes. Which kid is likely to get in trouble with the grandparents? Would you say?
You.
Yeah, I don't think either one of you are more likely to get in trouble with the grandparents. They might say something to you about, like, knowing you need to do something, but I don't think either one of you are likely to get in trouble, no. At all. Nope. Growing up, do you think discipline was different when you were younger versus now?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think it was different? Do you think I was more strict then and less strict now?
No.
So you think I'm equally as strict?
No, it got worse every time.
It got worse every time? How so?
Just letting him do more to me, I guess.
Letting your brother do more?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably why maybe I am a bit more strict with him. So I think when you guys were little, I was more strict than I am now. But I think thing one pushed the limits so far that now I'm more cautious with you. Does that make sense?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying I think that I'm a little bit more cautious now because I don't want you to do some of the things that he did. Does that make sense? How do, so this one isn't necessarily a question for you, but how do you or your parents, how did they, the second child always gets messed up that way, I know. Yeah, because, I mean, when you figure out what the older ones are capable of, then it scares you. It's not even that I think that he would do the same things. I think he's more so talking about the fact that I don't let him walk places or do things on his own, but that's not necessarily a him problem, that's a societal problem. That's more concerned for his safety because of society than it is for him to walk up there. Yeah, you do learn from the first kid, that's for sure. Okay, so not necessarily a question for him, but maybe a question for you all. How do you or your parents handle, like, disagreements in front of the kids? So I think, like, we've tried to not have disagreements in front of them, but when we do, we try to explain to them that when you take two people with two different opinions, sometimes you're going to butt heads, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that you don't love the other person. It just means that you don't agree and you're going to butt heads. But how did you or your parents handle disagreements in front of you or your kids? Like, I don't think that it's necessarily wrong for the kids to be able to see some disagreements because it teaches them that when you take two people with two different opinions and two different personalities, they're gonna butt heads sometimes, but it's okay. we tried to keep it that way. We tried to keep it to where they didn't know that we were disagreeing. But there are and have been times where disagreements have been in front of them. But I think it's kind of healthy for them to see a little bit of the disagreement to learn when they get older that that's a normal part of marriage. Um, let's see. Trying to give you guys some time if you wanted to answer. Yeah, I think ultimately, like if it's a disagreement over the kids, I tend to get my way. Yeah. But ultimately, if I'm the one doing, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have a say, but if I'm the one doing the majority of the work and I'm the one that has to implement, like, say, a grounding, then I should be able to have more say on how long they're grounded. Um, so I guess a funny question now. Did you or do you have a Halloween candy tax? Because I certainly did. If I took you trick or treating and I was cold and I had to walk around, I'm getting my Halloween candy tax. That's for sure. Like if you took your kids trick or treating, did you get the candy tax? Or if your parents took you, did they get the candy tax? I tend to lean more towards like Snickers, and one kid is allergic to peanuts and one kid doesn't like them, so it kind of worked out. Didn't it? Candy tax. I only took your Snickers.
I don't care.
What do you mean?
You could take anything out of there.
Oh, that's nice.
That's not.
Well, yeah, you always check to make sure the candy is safe, but
I got like moldy candy from like a grandma's candy bucket in her living room. I don't want to see that decades.
well, it's not even like it's the safety thing because people find things in their kids as candy from trick or treating.
And they're just gonna like eat it for me.
No, but if I think wasn't there like a thing where someone found like a razor blade in their kid's Halloween candy? If that was the case, then it's getting thrown away. Are you taking selfies on your phone in an apple? Yeah, it's crazy. Like I don't understand why. I mean, these are kids. What are you doing?
Yes.
You're silly. Yeah, totally a good picture. Let's see. Did you step in or did your parents step in when you and your siblings were fighting?
You just watched like we were in a boxing ring.
I mean, what else am I supposed to do? First of all, you're boys.
When you got a 14-year-old fighting a 10-year-old, you're just sitting there. Whoa.
No, I stopped things before somebody got hurt, but you're both boys, and you guys like to wrestle.
I don't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
So the things that got broken in my kitchen the other night,
It's called defending myself.
it's not defending yourself because you started it.
How?
I watched you go up to him and start poking and punching him.
I didn't do that.
You did, and I watched it.
No, he walks over to me and puts his finger in my ear, and I'm supposed to just sit there. Oh, yes, please do it again. That was so comfortable. Thanks.
You both do things that nitpick at the other one. You're both guilty of starting it, is my point. But I think unless like we were gonna kill each other, I don't think you aren't allowed to like wrestle with your sibling at all. My sister and I fought all the time. And then sometimes we'd gang up on the brother. But now that we're adults, we're like all super close. Yeah. But what did you do when your parents weren't home? Yeah, only sometimes. We fought a lot, for sure. Um, did you or do you help your kids with their homework? So I did help the older one with his homework until about middle school because he was doing stuff in math that we would actually argue about. So if he came home with like multiplication, I would be sitting there working it out how we were taught. You know, you multiplied the way that you were taught in school. He would argue that that was wrong and that I didn't know what I was doing. So middle school became an issue when it came to math and multiplying and dividing because they had such a different way of teaching it then. I'm not entirely sure what the difference was, but he would have to like work it out in a way that I had never seen before, and then I would work it out in a way that he had never seen before. And it started like I didn't know what I was doing. Like, did your parents help you with your homework? They help more in elementary, yeah. I think it is more in elementary because once they start getting into like, for me anyways, once they started getting into like higher math areas, it was just out of my league. Math is not my thing. Um, let's see. Are there or were there? Now, I guess this would apply based off different generations here, but are there or were there any video games that you did not allow your kids to play? For me, the only game they were not allowed to play was Call of Duty. It's okay now, but not when they were younger.
It was only the war games.
Yeah, just the war games.
The war games.
Yeah.
Black Ops was fine though.
Yeah.
I played Black Ops.
Yeah.
I had the game, but I just didn't do it.
In my opinion, and the reason why I didn't let them is because I thought that they needed to understand those games present such a realistic idea and such realistic images that I felt like they needed to understand the difference between real and like reality and what they were doing on the game. You know, there's a big difference between shooter games on an Xbox and what can happen in real life. And I felt like they needed to know the difference before they started playing those games. I would imagine there probably wasn't many to choose from. I don't think there were any video games we weren't allowed to play. But we had stuff like Mario and Donkey Kong, and there wasn't a whole lot of the games that they have now. Let's see here. Do you think parents have a right to spy on their kids? I mean, do I have a right to go through your phone?
No,
You don't think I do?
I don't see why you would even want to. I don't really see why it matters.
So this is where we're probably going to disagree.
You're
And-
so like interested in my phone. Like I have anything that I just have to show you.
See, this is where we're going to disagree, and this is where being the parent versus the kid is different. I'm not checking your phone because I'm concerned about what you're doing. I'm checking your phone to stay on top of people that are out there that do things that they shouldn't be doing.
We could have a virus.
It could be anything from a virus to, like, are you getting into certain areas of the internet that you shouldn't be in?
What?
Are people sending you messages that shouldn't be?
I usually just mess with them.
It's not about checking up on what you're doing. It's checking up on what other people on the internet might be doing. So I think yes.
You have a phone, you can do that on your own. But
I do. Well, see, here's the thing. I know that I'm not interested in getting into gamer chat rooms. But you are.
no, I'm not.
You don't get onto any gamer chat room. At all. Like, when you're playing those games, you're not in a chat room with other people.
My friends, yeah.
But not other random people.
No,
Never.
no. I'm not interested in talking to other people. Which is weird.
Right. But as a parent, if you're not checking on what your kids are doing, then how do you protect them from people that are out there that are bad?
That's just called being overprotective.
It's not being overprotective. I think not only do parents have a right to spy on their kids, they have a responsibility to spy on their kids. Because you need to know not only what are they doing on the internet, but what's happening in their social groups at school, because kids get involved in things that maybe they don't foresee coming, or suddenly your kid's all depressed, but you don't know why. So, yeah, I think we have a responsibility to keep an eye on what they're doing, and exactly. You should absolutely know what's going on with your kid. What?
I'm just convinced I can't take care of myself.
It's not a matter of being convinced that you can't take care of yourself. See, this is where kids don't understand, and why that's why you have a parent. If you think I didn't go through your brother's phone, you're wrong. I totally did.
And you go through mine like once a week. think you're gonna find something.
I don't think I'm hoping I don't find anything. But I do think that I need to keep an eye on you because there's people out there that do things that they should not be doing. People pretending to be kids when they're not.
Whatever random people message me, I kind of just have fun with it.
I hear you, and you're getting to an age where it's less likely that I'm concerned about it, but if I don't keep an eye, then, if something happened to you, I would blame myself because I didn't know what was going on. Can you at least see it from my point of view
No.
as a parent?
No.
Well, probably not.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right. I don't think they understand at all at their age what's out there, the potential of what's out there. Let's see. A parenting rule that you've broken, but it felt good. For example, I always said I would never be the parent that said, because I said so. Until thing one came along, and I would say, well, here's why you can't do this, or here's why you can't do that. And even after explaining to him why you can't do such and such, he would say, but why? Okay, if I have to answer you again when I've just answered you, then the answer is because I said so. No, they don't think it would happen to them. But that's one parenting rule that I broke. I never wanted to be the because I said so parent. But with him, I explain things to him. He disagrees. But at least he doesn't come back at me with a why after I just explained to you why. Like, did you have some sort of concept in your head of the parent you were going to be, and then once you have kids, you're like, oh yeah, this is totally different. Let's see. When you ask your teenager a question, how did a grunt become an issue? Become an answer. Like, I'll ask him something and he'll just go, Well, did you have fun? Did you sleep good?
That's just all on you.
That's not on me.
You ask somebody 45 seconds after they wake up if they slept good. You're expecting, oh yeah, dude, it was so nice.
Well, I think a simple, yeah, I slept good, or no, I didn't, would suffice. But, like, when you get up and you walk out here, I assume that it's okay to talk to you. It's never okay to talk to them. I don't think that, like, these streams are the most I get out of them sometimes when it comes to, like, answering things. Because most of the time it's just a, It depends on the question, though, I guess. I have, like, zero experience with girls. So if you have daughters, like, do they do the same thing? Do they do the grunt thing too? Or is this just like a teenage boy thing? Because I'm starting to wonder, like, do the girls do this too? Let's see. So, did you or do you co-sleep with your babies? So, when like your babies were little, did you sleep with them? I totally did.
Looking at me like I got babies or something.
Totally did. I definitely co-slept with them.
You have an obsession with newborns.
Well, I guess I had a fear more important than loving babies. Um, my fear was I was so exhausted that if you were in another room, I wouldn't be able to hear you if you started crying because I was so tired. Or if you start coughing in your sleep, like I want to know, babies are supposed to sleep on their backs, so if you spit up, I wanted to be able to hear it. It was fears more than anything, really.
You're obsessed with babies.
Yeah, I slept with mine from like day one until probably they were a year old.
You're definitely obsessed with babies.
I love babies. Babies are amazing and blessings, and they're so cute and so little and so snuggly, and they actually want to be around you because they don't really have a choice. Then all of a sudden they hit teenagers and don't want to be anywhere near you.
You're not obsessed with them, but you love the smell of their head.
Babies have like this smell that like makes moms. I can't help it. Babies have a smell.
You're so weird.
They do.
You just love the smell of babies.
They smell like that, like Johnson and Johnson baby lotion. Oh, it smells so good.
Then sniff the bottle,
I have.
not the child.
I don't just go around randomly sniffing kids. Don't make it sound like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do not.
Mm-hmm.
Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Did you or do you allow sleepovers? So, like, apparently that's a hot topic. Whether or not to allow your kids sleepovers at other parents' houses. And again, totally not judging, because in today's society, I understand why parents don't want their kids to have sleepovers, and I understand why other parents allow their kids to have sleepovers. So I get both sides of the coin there. Allowed too much. He was allowed. Singwon was allowed sleepovers as long as I met the parents first. Oh yeah. Until he got older. But yeah, like when he was younger, it would be for things like birthday parties or like a weekend thing or something like that. But I had to meet the parents first. Now, I don't know that I would have the same opinion now. I don't know, because the world can sometimes be scary. I understand why some parents don't allow their kids to have sleepovers until they're older, like older. So I get both sides of it. When you were a kid, or when your kid started driving or going somewhere, did you expect to know? I always call it the 5 W's. So who, what, when, where, why, and how. So, like, I wanted to make sure who you're going with, when you were leaving, when you're coming back, why you're going. I wanted to know all the details. If he couldn't answer those questions, he couldn't go. Did your parents expect like the same, or did you just say bye, I'm leaving, and leave? I wanted to know as much detail as possible before he was allowed to leave. Yeah, all the details. Yeah. I feel like it's respectful, and in return, I feel like if I'm going to go somewhere, I'll say to them, I'm going to run to the store. Do you want to go? If they don't, then, if I'm going to expect out of them to tell me where they're going, I'm certainly going to tell them where I'm going. Because I feel like if I'm doing it, then I'm setting the example for them to do it. And both of my kids are pretty good about it. It is common courtesy and respect, yes. Did you or do you allow your children to make mistakes, and I mean like small ones, for the purpose of learning from them? So, as a mom, I can pretty much tell from the get go whether someone is going to be a good influence on my kid or not so good of an influence on my kid. But sometimes you have to let your kids figure that out on their own, but not let it go too far, so that they can learn the difference between who's going to be a good influence for them and who isn't. Or when you tell your kid, don't ride your dirt bike on a wet road, and they do it anyways, and they get hurt. I feel like he only scratched up his chin, but I feel like he learned from that. Um, if you tell your kids don't run in the house and they fall, they learn from that. So you kind of let them make mistakes on their own to learn from them. But there's lines that don't get crossed either. Right. I feel like I definitely 100%, even at my age, I still learn from my mistakes. And if they don't start learning younger how to deal with those mistakes, then as an adult, it'll be more difficult on them to not learn from them and keep repeating the same patterns. Um, let's see here. When did you or do you think that you see your parenting kick in? So I feel like once they started hitting those early teenage years, I started seeing little pieces kicking in. Um, I feel like now that thing one is older, I see a little bit more kicking in. Um, but it's not immediate. Like all those little things you're planting in their brain on how to learn and grow and do. Like when do you think all of that finally comes together? And do you think that yeah, I do think some of them do. Do you think girls tend to be better at that kicking in earlier, or do you think boys are? I don't have daughters, so I don't necessarily know, but are girls more apt to have those kick in faster than boys? I guess is what I'm asking. For those that do have boys and girls. And while we're on the subject of boys versus girls, if you have both, boys and girls, which one do you think was harder to don't? Which one do you think was harder to raise as they were getting older? And when I say harder to raise, like I mean like anything from the small stuff to the big stuff. Stuff. Like I would think prom or homecoming would be easier for a boy than for a girl. Because the boys, you just buy them the tux, the tie, the shoes. But girls, you got to do the dress and the shoes and the hair and the nails and the makeup. And like, I think taking a girl or having a girl for prom and having a boy for prom, totally different. Girls are harder to raise. In your case, was it girls or girl? Particular girl. Was one a little harder than the other one? Did you ever have any rules that you implemented as a parent that were not up for debate? So, like, this is what it is. Like, if this is not up for debate, it's not going to change. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Like, this is what it is. So, in my case, it was in order for you to spend time with your friends, I have to meet the parents. Like, this is not a debate. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be. The other rule I had when they started driving was they had to have so many months of driving under their belt before my kid is getting in the car with you. Because they're brand new drivers and they're boys and distractions and music and goofing off and carrying on and laughing, and they needed to be more aware before my kid got in the car with them. That was not up for debate. Or did your parents have a rule that was like totally not up for debate? Yeah, boys are so much easier when it comes to like, I wouldn't say easier because he's a lot easier than Thing One when it comes to clothes and shoes. Like he wants hoodies and shorts and slides and he's good. Thing One wants specific brands of different clothing and it has to be, he's much more specific when it comes to his clothes. We'll probably do one or two more questions and then wrap it up. I didn't realize we had been talking for so long. How did you or do you teach your kids to deal with bullies? So when Thing One first started school, I always told him, you treat people the way you want to be treated and everything will be fine. That's not the case. That's not at all the case. And he quickly found that out. So then it got to a point where I felt like if having conversations with the other kid didn't work, I was adamant against no fighting. But his 5th grade year, he finally, this kid had been bullying him for a while, and the kid started pushing him on the playground, and he pushed back. And it kind of turned into a little bit of a scuttle. Okay. And then I get a phone call from the school that, but I feel like after that, that kid never bothered him again. So do I encourage physical altercations? No. Do I want that? No. But I also feel like I tried to teach my kid to treat other people how he wanted to be treated, but that didn't work. So then how do you deal with them? Like, you try to use your words, you try to treat them with respect, you try to treat them the way you want to be treated, but yet they're still doing what they're like. How do you find them? How do you deal with that? How do you teach your kid to deal with that? I always told my kids there's only 2 reasons that you are ever to start a fight. One, if you see someone hurting a woman, totally okay with it. Or if you ever see someone picking on a kid that is less less able to defend themselves, then I'm okay with it. But other than that, like, you shouldn't be fighting. I also didn't want them to be that kid that was constantly in fights and doing those things, but I also wanted them to know that I would have their back if they were standing up for someone. Let's do one more. Okay, this is a funny one. We'll go off the serious for a little bit here. How do you handle when your kid does or says something that you know is wrong, but it's funny? So, like, for instance, if your kid slips up and says a curse word in public, like, everybody else is laughing, but you got to keep a straight face because you're the parent. Like, how do you deal with your kid doing something wrong, but it's funny? Depending on what it was, sometimes I would laugh only because everybody else was laughing. But then later we would have a conversation about, yeah, you can't do that. And depending on exactly what it was, we might be having a conversation right there. How do you think, like, people do that? Like, for instance, you're out in public with your kid, they say something like a cuss word, and they're like 2. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is laughing, but you're not supposed to. Like, how do you deal with that? You try to keep a straight face. Yeah, you try, but depending on what they say, it might be a little hard to keep a straight face.
So you always get like mad at me when you think I'm lying, but I'm not because you're sitting there. If you laugh, you're lying.
Because that's how you work. You tend to have the tell. Like, if you're lying, you will put a grin on your face.
No, because you stare at me with the weirdest looks. You look at me so weird. If you laugh, you're lying.
Do not do that. You're crazy. Are you ready for bed or something? You ready for bed or something?
Ready to stop hearing you talk.
Watch out for the doggy.
Door.
I'm super tired, that's for sure. So again, this whole stream was not about like judging or trying to stir any type of controversy. It was more like sharing your experiences as a parent and trying to learn for maybe somebody else's. Because I know like the majority of the things that I've done with my kids is advice I've gotten from other people. Yeah, these kids do not come with a handbook. There's no book that says, yeah, you should do this or no, you shouldn't do that. I mean, like, every kid is different and there's no handbook. And sometimes being able to communicate with other parents gives you ideas and helps you deal with things that help things make easier to deal with. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Are you good? You good?
Yeah.
All right. I think we are definitely going to wrap it up for tonight. But I hope you guys enjoyed this a little bit. Good night, everybody.